Yes guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ben if you haven't seen me before. So it's that time of the season, of course, one more game left for Sheffield United. That's Derby away this weekend. So I thought this week is a perfect chance to do this tier list, is keep, loan, sell. I mean, the concept is pretty simple. You'll see the tier list in a second. I'm going to tell you whether I will keep the player, loan the player, sell them, or if they're out of contract, renew them or not. Of course, for the Blades on the pitch, it's been a disappointing season. We're going to finish like 15th, 16th. And I think this summer it's a massive rebuild in terms of players that we keep, sell and bring in. Just before we get into this video, thank you very much for the support on this channel so far. I'm up to about 45 subs now. I know the Championship video did quite well, so thank you very much for all the views. If you haven't seen my content before, I do Sheffield United content, Premier League, Championship and World Cup in the summer. I'm going to get some World Cup content out in the next few weeks once the season's over. I've got a preview, one player in each group to look out for and a kit ranking to do, and then any other suggestions for content you'll have to let me in the comments. I could do them as well. And if you haven't subscribed already, what are you waiting for? Just press that button. Also, leave the video a like, go follow my socials in the caption, of course my Instagram, my X and my TikTok. I'm currently doing a World Cup countdown in the aim to get 2,000 followers on TikTok, so if you aren't following already, what are you waiting for? Go and follow them, subscribe while you're here and watch this video. Anyway, enough waffle, let's get into this tier list and see what we're working with. So as you can see, this is a tier list that we've gone for, of course, 4 categories. The 4 tiers are keep, loan, sell and don't renew. There's 33 players on this list, all contracted to be at Sheffield United next season or contract expiring this summer. So in this video, it's pretty simple. I'm going to tell you whether I keep them, loan them out, sell them or don't renew the contract. We might as well just get started. Of course, Michael Cooper is the first one, and straight away he's going in keep. Look, he's had his problems this season. He hasn't been at his best, but of course he's been carrying that injury most of the season. It sounds like he's going to be fit and ready for pre-season, of course, get the minutes in the friendlies. And in 2024-25, we saw how good of a keeper he was. Of course, he was one of the best keepers in the league. Like any player, he's not exempt to criticism, but of course, he was brilliant that season. And hopefully next season, injury-free can be that top keeper again. And hopefully next season, he has a better defence in front of him as well. Because obviously, as a keeper, you want a good defence in front of you to face less shots. And especially at the start of the season, we were just conceding shots left, right and centre. So I suppose as a keeper, that's never a good thing for you. With the money and the resources that we will have in the summer, I don't think a keeper is a priority. Because if we can get Cooper fit and firing again, he's one of the best in the league. Next up, we've got Adam Davies. His contract is up in the summer, and for that reason, I'd say don't renew. He's been with the club since the January of 2022, so what, 4 years now? He's been a backup keeper. He only really had 1 spell of games, and this is now. Look, he's done all right in these spell of games, but he's nothing special compared to Michael Cooper, especially. And to be honest, I think as a club, if we want to progress, we need to move away from these sort of players. Because it's all well and good saying he can be a backup, but he's not that good to be a backup, to be honest. And I think in terms of backup keepers, we could definitely improve on Adam Davies. But you've got to give him some credit. At the end of this season, he's been all right, nothing more, nothing less. But he stepped in when he's needed to. He's not complaining. He's been all right. But I think with his contract coming to an end, it's a natural departure. Next up is young Luke Faxon. Of course, hasn't played a game for us yet, so that's why he's going in the loan category. Of course, our academy has been brilliant over the years. Whether Luke Faxon is one of them players, we don't know yet. And obviously, with a keeper, it's hard to get chances to try and prove yourself in the first team. When Michael Cooper got injured, there was an argument for Luke Faxon to be starting ahead of Davies for that experience. But I think as the season's progressed, I think this toxic atmosphere at Bramall Lane definitely wouldn't have helped his career, so I think it's the right thing to play Davies. I can't say I know too much about him, but judging by our academy, he's got some decent potential, and I'd like to see him get a loan move in the summer instead of being sat on the bench, being the number 3. I'm not sure what level he could go to, maybe like National League, League 2, maybe even League 1 at a push. But I reckon around League 2 is maybe the area you want to be aiming for. And hopefully I'm sitting here making this video in a year's time saying he's had a good loan spell if he does go out on loan. Next up is everyone's favourite goalkeeper, Ivo Gerbic. Yes, he's still at the club, isn't he? But I'd want to cash in the summer because of course he'd be on high wages because of the Premier League stint. I mean, he's been on a couple of loan spells in Turkey. I don't actually know if he's good or not. I mean, judging by football, he doesn't seem to have done awful at Karamguruk. I might have butchered that pronunciation of that Turkish club. Apologies if I have. But I just don't know if he's needed, and I don't think it's the right move to bring him back into the team. And I think the smart thing to do would be cash in, of course, get the money for him, get the wages off the bill. Because obviously he was signing in the Premier League, so of course he's going to be on a decent amount of money compared to Championship wages. And to be loaning him out year after year probably doesn't help him with our wage situation, to be fair. So I think he's definitely one that we should sort of get off the books and just start afresh. Next up is one of my favourite players, Femi Siriki. I'd say keep. With the likes of Brooks, Siriki, Peck and Harmer in this video, it's hard to say whether to keep or sell them, because realistically, a couple of their names at least will be sold in the summer to fund the transfer window ideally. So it's hard to know which category to put them in, but I'd say keep Siriki. Out of them 4 names, I will get onto it later, which ones I want to sell. But Femi Siriki isn't one of those I want to sell. He's a brilliant right back, of course, for this league. And he's properly broken into the team this season and become a mainstay at right back. Yes, his defending could be worked on a bit, but his attacking prowess is so brilliant. Of course, he's got the pace and the knowledge of the game to bomb forward past Andre Brooks. And more often than not, when he's overlapped, he gets a chance or wins a penalty or a free kick. And I've got to say, he's been brilliant this season, one of my favourite players. And I think in the summer, he's definitely one to rebuild around because I think he's definitely good enough for a top half team at least. Obviously, whether we can keep him or not is a different question. This is just my opinion if I want to keep him. But I would love to see him in United colours for at least 1 more year, I suppose. Next up is Jamie Shackleton. Where do I start with this guy? I did a TikTok about this guy a couple of weeks ago, and Wilder said he might want to keep him. Yes, he's versatile, but come on, he's never fit. He literally played about 20 minutes in the whole of 2025, not just the season, the calendar year. He's only played a handful of times since joining us. Of course, he's been injury prone, and for that exact reason, he's going to sell. I just don't see how having a player like that on the books is helpful to us, to be honest. Because like I mentioned, he's never fit, he's never available, he's not even that good when he does play. And yes, he's versatile, but like I mentioned, availability is your best ability at times. And Wild has mentioned before, he wants to score a 22-23 next year. If you're waiting to spot on a player like that, it's just ridiculous. Because in his career, he's only played one season, over 30 games. That was at Millwall in 22-23. To be fair to him, some of that is probably selection more than injuries as well. But with a mixture of the injuries and the ability, I just don't think he should be at the club anymore. Next up is young right back Sam Curtis, of course currently on loan at Chesterfield. It's a pretty simple one for me. Get him another loan out. He's had a couple of loan spells where he hasn't been brilliant. I think one at Peterborough, one in Scotland. And he seems to be doing decent at Chesterfield. The fans seem to like him. Of course, that's at League 2 level, so maybe next year look at League 1. And if somehow Chesterfield won the playoffs, of course they're sitting 7th at the moment, we're going to send him there another year. I think continuity with loans is so important, especially if they go up the divisions. Because of course with Chesterfield, he knows the manager, he knows the fans, he knows the club. So if Chesterfield did go to League 1 next season, that could be an option. But I would definitely like to see him at League 1 level, of course a second chance at League 1, because I think he's a brilliant prospect. Of course, he was playing from young in Ireland. And a lot of talk when we signed him, he was one of the biggest exports from the League of Ireland in years. So hopefully next year we can get him some more experience and he can live up to that hype. Next up, we've got another young player, one of the AI signings. Of course, that is Mikhail Polandakov. I was told whether to loan or sell, but he's only young still, so I'm going for loan. I don't really know what's happened to him this season. He's been in the under-18s, under-21s, I think. But I don't think he's played much, so I don't really know what he's doing with his free time, to be honest. He is only 2021. He's quite rated in Bulgaria. Of course, that doesn't mean much, I suppose. I don't know. I think it may be daft if we were to sell him after one season, because you never know. A loan might be exactly what he needs. I think it'd be just daft to throw away a player after one season with such potential. Whether he's any good, I don't actually know, but he's supposed to have got the potential. So I'd say get him a loan out, whether it's like League 2, National League or abroad, I don't know. But I suppose at the very least with a loan, it could increase his value. Now moving on to centre-backs, the first one is Mark McGuinness. And let's be honest, I don't think he's good enough for Championship level. He's a solid League 1 defender, I don't think he's much more. And I think it was a massive mistake to spend that money. I don't know how much exactly, but I think it was quite a lot. Because this season he's played quite a few times, he hasn't really stood out. And for the most part, he's been quite poor, quite injury prone. So to be honest, next season I don't really know what he offers us. Because even if it was a backup, you want someone who's a bit capable of stepping in at the very least. And with Mark McGuinness, I don't know if it gives you that. Look, I wouldn't be mad if we did keep him, but I don't think it is the right option. So I think the right thing for the club and the players to part ways in the summer. Next up is Japhet Tanganga. I weren't sure whether to keep or sell him. I want to go keep. Look, I know this first season hasn't panned out how we wanted it to. Of course, he's been quite poor. The first thing might be to do with him being a captain. I don't think he's a leader of sorts. But we did sign him for big money. We know how good he can be in the Championship. I think he needs a better partner next to him. And I think he needs that weight off his shoulders with the captaincy, of course. Look, if a good enough offer were to come in, we could sell him. But I think keep him, maybe try and get his money worth. Because like I mentioned, at Millwall, we know how good of a player he was. We want to see that again. So I think the two main things with him in the summer we need to is get rid of the captaincy and of course give him a new partner. Because I think he definitely has that quality there, he just hasn't shown it a lot this season at all, to be honest. Don't get me wrong, he's been massively disappointed, but I'm willing to give him another chance. The next player up is Ben Mee. Of course, he only signed a 1-year contract with an extension clause. And it's a weird one with Ben Mee because he was playing towards the start of the season with Tanganga, a decent partnership to be fair. And then he got an injury over the Christmas period. He came back, played one game and then disappeared again. And since he last played for the club, he's been in a Sidemen video, but he's not been in our squad, so I don't really get that. I think based on all that, he's probably going to have to go and don't renew. I mean, whether it's a case of being injured all this time or he's not fit enough or he just didn't fancy it, I don't know. I think if he was injured or struggling for fitness, I think Wilder would have said. So it might just be a case of he thinks Bindon and McGuinness are better. As a backup next year, I wouldn't mind, but of course it just doesn't seem like he's going to be playing for the club again. I don't really know what's gone off with him, so I can't really say too much more. I wouldn't be against keeping him if he was fit and available next year, but I think it's just no one to get rid of. The next one up is Nils Zetterstrom, of course, young centre-back. And he was a weird one because he was signed under sellers last season, probably to do with the board as well. But then he never played a competitive game for us. Of course, went to Genoa on loan in January, played one single minute for them. He's been on the bench a lot for Genoa, but just hasn't been coming on, so I don't really get the point in that. Genoa have a buy option on him, but of course he's not playing, so why would they sign him? It's one of the many failed signings last year. Of course, we don't know what to do with him really. There could be an argument made to just get him off the books, but I'm going to go for a loan. I think it'd be daft to get rid of him after 1 year. Of course, we don't know the potential that he does have. So I think we should find a loan for him next season where he'll actually play, get regular minutes, see how he develops. And then next summer, if he's not good enough, sell him. If he is good enough, keep him in the team. I just think it's daft to get rid of young players. We've not really seen much of them. So for that reason, Zetterstrom's going in the loan section. Next up is Harrison Burrows. It's a really weird one, this. Because going forward, Harrison Burrows is probably one of the best left backs in the league, but defensively probably one of the worst. And whenever he's playing left back, of course, we've got some decent attacking output, but he's always weak in defence. And we'll get on to Sam McCallum in a minute, but I personally prefer him over Burrows. I'm on the fence about this, but I'm going to say sell. Like I mentioned, I'd rather have Sam McCallum starting for us next year over Burrows. You do lose some attacking output when you don't have Burrows in the team compared to McCallum, but I think that defensive prowess is just night and day. And I think the money that we could potentially get Burrows at least break even and make a bit of profit on him, I think it'd be worth it. A player of Burrows' quality doesn't deserve to be sitting on the bench, in my opinion. I think the only way we could fit him in if he went to a winger position or like a wing back. I think playing a bit further up could be beneficial to us and him, of course, because he'll have more licence to go forward with, of course, less defensive pressure. So it'll be interesting if that happens next season or if we cash in on him. But I think if we carry on in a 4-back system, I think cashing in on him is the right answer. It would free up some funds for the transfer market, and of course, he's this financial pressure, but he's one of them could have gone in keep category as well. And speaking of Sam McCallum, he's going in keep, obviously. I'm a massive fan of Sam McCallum. When he came to the team at left back, he was ever so solid. And I think he'd have been right up there for our play of the season if he didn't get injured at Millwall in January. Because he was just so consistent. Every game, he seemed to be 7 out of 10, if not better. Like I mentioned before, McCallum doesn't give you too much going forward, but of course defensively, he's so solid. And I think with a player like Sariki at right back, you can't have 2 attacking fullbacks. You need 1 defensive, 1 attacking. And I think that balance of McCallum and Sariki was working perfectly in that mid part of the season. It's such a hard one with Burrows and McCallum. They've both got their own qualities. It's one of them. If we stick with a 4-back system, I'd say cash in on Burrows, but if we go to a 5-back system, I wouldn't cash in on McCallum. I think McCallum, even if he is a squad player next year, but I don't think he will be. I think he'll be a starter. He's so solid. So that's why I'd definitely keep him. The next player is a weird one. Of course, Reece Davies, who's been on loan at QPR this season. And by the sounds of it, he's been decent at QPR, so maybe they won't sign him permanently. His United career started so well. Of course, the start of 2022-23, the left centre-back was going so well. And then, of course, Coventry, where he got the hamstring injury, ruled him out for the season. And since then, it's just been injury after injury with him. He seems to have regained a bit of form and fitness with QPR this season, like I mentioned. So whether he has any sort of career life with Sheffield United, I'm not sure. Wilder's never really mentioned him, so there's no indications whether he stays or goes in the summer. But I think, similar to a couple of the other players, I think it's time to move on. Don't get me wrong, like I mentioned, he's been decent for QPR this season, but whether he's at our level, I'm not sure. And sometimes these players just need a fresh environment, new faces, a new team around them. And I think Reece Davies might be a perfect example of that, because a fresh start's where to try and regain his fitness fully. And he's already achieved that partly at QPR, so whether they go in for a permanent, like I mentioned, I don't know how much he'd cost. He signed a 3-year deal in the summer of 2024, so of course he's got a year left on his contract. So I mean, whether we are looking to cash in or maybe give him the pre-season to give him a chance, I'm not too sure. I was a big fan of Reece Davies. Of course, I've got his match 1 shirt up on the wall there. It was the first ever match 1 shirt I bought, so that's why I still got it. And I wish it had worked out for him at United, but of course injuries absolutely ruined him. It's a shame how it's ended, but I think it's probably time to move on. Jairo Riedewald next, you don't even need to ask me, he's definitely staying. What a player he's been this season, of course picking up on a free September, October time. And he's been ever so solid in that midfield. He's such a consistent performer, such a glue in that midfield. And I can probably count on one hand the amount of bad games he's had, because it's not many. It's been confirmed we are triggering that extension for his contract to be extended till the end of next season. And dare I say he's been one of our best players this season, and most important in terms of how big he's been in that midfield. Because if you look at the stats when we concede when he's on the pitch and not on the pitch, it's just night and day. Especially in the last month or two of the season, whenever he's come off the pitch in the 60th, 65th minute, we always concede. I'd say the only downside to him is, of course, his fitness. He can't seem to play more than 65, 70 minutes. But I have no doubt with a full pre-season, of course, get some minutes in the tank, I think he'll thrive. And I think he's definitely part of that core in that team that definitely needs to be built around in the summer. Because like I mentioned, he's that glue in that midfield, he's ever so solid, controls that tempo. And I think with him, like Vinicius last season, of course, that sort of player in your team is so important. Gustavo Harman next. Look, I said I'm doing this based on what I want, but I think I've got to take realism into this as well. So it's one that I'm probably going to have to say sell. I think he's 99% gone in the summer. I just can't see where we keep him for another year. Because of course, with the parachute payments going away in the summer, we do need to sell some players. He's probably one of them. And he's coming to the last year of his contract. It's probably the right time to cash in off the back of another decent season. And with us having to cash in at least 1 or 2 players, he's definitely top of that list, I'd say. Look, I absolutely love him, but he does go missing in games sometimes. But of course, them times when he doesn't go missing, it's just so vital. Of course, this season he's got 5 goals and 11 assists, 16 goal involvements in total. And when he's on his game at times, he's really on it. Of course, he's one of the best players in the league. But it's just them times that frustrates you. Of course, when he goes missing in them games quite often, he just seems to coast about a bit. It doesn't track back as much. But when he's in the game, he's really on it. I believe that penalty against Preston now means he has 50 goal involvements all in all. He's been a brilliant servant all in all. Of course, some brilliant goals in the Premier League and the Championship, but I just think it's run its course. And like I mentioned, in the summer, it'll be a natural departure that's beneficial for the player and the club. Similar to Harmer, City Peck's a tough one as well. I don't know which category to put him in. I'm going to go similar thing to Harmer. I think he will be sold in the summer. If I was doing this based on 100% personal opinion, it would be in keep. Because why on earth would we want to get rid of him? He's such a brilliant midfielder, first level, defensive and attacking wise. But the reality of the situation is he's worth the most in this squad. He'll probably get sold in the summer to fund the transfer window. So that's the only reason I'm putting him in sell, to be honest. Last year was his breakout year, especially after Arblaster got injured, but this year he took it to another level. And as well this season, he's adding more goals and assists to his game. And he's a top-end Championship player, let's face it. Of course, he could be in the Premier League one day. And I think in the summer, he'll definitely be playing in the Premier League. Of course, Brentford are interested, amongst others. I've seen rumours of what the price might be. I think about 10 to 15 to 20 million is about the right price for him. And I think that'd go a long way in our transfer window, so it's probably beneficial for both player and club. It'll be sad to see him go, but of course, that's a reality of not getting promoted in your parachute payment years. And now we don't have parachute payments, it's probably right that he's sold. Next up is Ollie Arblaster. Of course, for me, he's going in the keep section. Look, he's had a tough time this year since he returned from his injury. Never really got to full fitness. But the last couple of games, I think he's been a bit better. Of course, got a bit more chance in the first team. And I think he definitely needs this full pre-season to, of course, get back up to speed, get fully fit. Because we all saw at the start of last season how good he was before that injury. And I fully believe with a good pre-season and some minutes under the belt, he can be as good again. And with City Peck leaving in the summer most likely, I think he's a decent replacement in-house. I'm a massive fan of Arblaster. I have been since he broke into first team. And I've got a bit of a personal link with him. I met him a few years ago. Of course, he gave me some match-worn boots. I've made a TikTok about it. Basically, I won a charity auction. He turned up at my door with the boots himself. Really sound bloke. Had time for a picture, had time for a little chat. I'll put a picture, if I remember, on screen now. So I've got to have a big backer of him. Of course, I want him to be in the first team. and I do definitely want him to succeed, and I think he can do that next season. Next up is Joe Rothwell. Of course, we bought him in January from Rangers, and I think realistically we're going to keep him. I think he's a solid squad option. Of course, he's probably not going to be the starter, I reckon, but having three in midfield being Riedewald, Arblas and Rothwell is very solid for this level, and he's one of them again. He's not really shown his quality this season. He had a couple of decent games, but that's it. But you've got to remember his match fitness is nowhere near. Of course, he wasn't playing for Rangers at the start of the season, so he's another one that just needs a full pre-season to get the minutes under the belt and get full fitness. But I think next year, even if he isn't starting, he can be a decent asset for the squad. And realistically, I don't think we're going to sell a player we bought in January, especially someone like Rothwell, as it just wouldn't make sense at all, and I think he's a solid player for this level. Tom Davies is an obvious one. He's already announced he's leaving the Blades, so straight away that's going in don't renew. Look, he's been at the club about 3 years. He hasn't played much due to injury and fitness, and it's sad for him because of course he was highly touted at Everton, and of course he came to the Blades. He probably hasn't played anywhere near as much as he wanted to. Of course, he's still got the ability when he has played, and it's so frustrating with him because he'd come back from injury, play 1 or 2 games, play quite decent, then get injured again, and it's just this vicious cycle for the last 3 years, to be honest. And the sort of person he is as well, I wish it had gone differently for him on the pitch, because off the pitch he's been very open about his mental health, a very charitable guy, and off the pitch there's no way at all you can't like him. It's a shame it's ended this way, but of course you've got to think about the on the pitch actions as well. There's no hard feelings from me. Of course there's frustrations with the injuries, but no hard feelings as a person, so I wish him all the best in wherever he goes next. The next player up is Alex Matos. He's played a handful of times, that's about it this season. I was teetering on the edge between sell and loan, but I'm going to go for loan. Like I've mentioned about young players, it's very harsh to sell them after 1 season where they played a few games, and I think the smart thing to do would be to loan him out, of course, to increase his value or ability, because I think it'd be stupid not to give him a chance to play proper football consistently week in, week out, and then at the end of the loan he's either good enough or he's not. We either cash in on him or play in the first team. I've got to say I haven't been too impressed whenever he has played, but you've got to give him a chance somewhere else. I think a League One loan is about right. I don't think he's quite championship level yet, but I think League One he could definitely thrive in a team, maybe in the top end of the table. But it's one I've got to say I won't be too mad if we do sell him, because I haven't seen too much, but I think a loan would be the smart move to increase the value, like I mentioned. But it's one of them where I can't call whether he's going to go out on loan or permanently. Tafe Chong's an instant sell for me. He's been nowhere near good enough this season. He's played a few games, he's been awful. The game against Preston was probably his best game and he didn't do much, so that's saying something. I just don't really see what he offers, to be honest. He's got a bit of pace, but that's about it, no ability. And it just seems to me every time he gets the ball he runs a bit but then loses it without actually doing anything. And I just can't see him being with this team next season, so I'd say sell. And I mean, somehow he's going to the World Cup this summer. I mean, how's that happened? But like I mentioned, I don't see him next season being at the ability to play for United, so just try and get back some of the cash that we spent on him. Next up is Callum Ware, another easy keep, and I think that's someone we definitely need to build a team around next season, because you saw in the early parts and the mid part of the season how effective he was. And it's weird because he actually plays better when Gustavo Harmer isn't playing as well, because I think they occupy the same space in that attacking midfield spot. Because I think if we are to lose Harmer in the summer, I think Callum Ware can be the attacking outlet. Of course, 16 goal involvements in the Championship this season, 9 goals and 7 assists, and he's been so effective. Even when he doesn't get a goal and assist, he's always in the game, he's covering every single blade of grass. Of course, in 24-25 his debut season wasn't brilliant. Of course he didn't get as many goal involvements as he'd like, but he was still showing up every week, of course putting the energy and the effort into the games. And I think this season with the goals and assists he's definitely reaping them rewards. I think him and Riedewald could be the two most important players to build around in the summer in that midfield, and I think Callum Ware offers you so much in that attacking mid spot. Same can be said on the right for Andre Brooks, so I'm going for keep again. Of course he's another one in play similar to Sariki. We could lose in the summer but could also keep. I think Harmer and Peck are the two that nailed on to leave in the summer, but I don't know about the rest, so I think there's a chance we could keep Andre Brooks in the summer and that'd be a big boost. He's been quality this season, getting some goals and assists, not as many as he'd like to, but still a decent amount, and you can see in his play that he's got that raw technical ability. It's just a decision making that's his worst attribute, I think. Like sometimes maybe he could shoot instead of passing, or passing instead of shooting, etc. But his dribbling is his best attribute. Of course he could take on 1 or 2 players with ease, and I think the connection that him and Sariki have on that right hand side is so underrated, because they've got a brilliant connection on the pitch. Of course they know each other at times, and they know sometimes one needs to overlap, one needs to underlap, etc. And I think having a connection like that is so underrated when it comes to assets, because you can buy the best players technically in the league, but if they've not got that understanding with each other on that side, you don't really get the full effects. But I think with Sariki and Brooks, they have a full understanding of each other and where they want to be. I'm going to save us some time, talk about 2 at once here. Of course, Unwachuku and Akake. Of course, another 2 AI signings. They're on loan this season, hasn't really pulled up any trees at their respective clubs. And let's be honest, I don't think they're good enough for Sheffield United. I know what I've said about young players, but I think they're an exception. Like I mentioned, they're both out on loan at the moment. They're not really pulling up any trees or doing anything major. And I think we just need to cash in as soon as possible, because I just don't think they're going to be good enough for Sheffield United. I don't really know much more about them, so I can't say too much more. I'm just going to say cash in on them. For Louis Marsh, I was on the edge of sell, but I'm going to go for loans just about. He's had a couple of loans where he's done decent, but of course they've been cut premature. Like this season in January, he's signed for Falkirk in the Scottish Premiership. He started off decent, a couple of goals and assists, but got an injury to end his season. So it just feels like his career so far has been a bit stop-start, not really got going yet. And he's always been highly rated in the under-21s. Of course, he's been around for a few years now. And I think he's at that point in his career now. He's going to be 22 in July. It's like a crossroads. And I wouldn't be surprised if we did sell him in the summer. I think we will loan him out. Maybe like a League One club or lower end Championship, I'm not sure. He's been highly rated in the academy for a while now, but where that potential turns into ability, I just don't know. So I think maybe one last loan to see if he's good enough, if not cash in next summer. Now we're on to the first team strikers. Of course, the first one being Tom Cannon. I'm really on the fence about this. Of course, we paid 10 million, not got much return for that yet. This may maybe a bit mad and delusional, but I give him another chance. He's never really had a full run in the team to play to his strengths, but I think in the summer with this rebuild, we could definitely sign players to play to his strengths and of course playing that way, because of course we're signing for about 10 million, want to see some returning investment, and this season is definitely a big one for him. Of course, a full pre-season under the same manager, try and cater the game to his style, see if he can be that striker we wanted him to be. I wouldn't be surprised if we did cash in him, but I'd take him another chance. Now Tyrese Campbell is a hard one because I don't know whether to go heart or head here. My heart's telling me to keep him because of course he's given us some brilliant memories, of course some derby goals, but my head's saying that he's quite injury prone. Of course he struggled with some injuries over the last couple of years, and he had an off year this year, so I don't know whether he'll be cashed in on in the summer. I could have gone for keep, I could have gone for sell, I'm going for sell. I feel like if we want to generate some funds in this transfer window, he could be one that could be sacrificed, and with the attacking options that we might have next season, there might not be a place for him. So if a decent offer comes in from him, I think Wilder might cash in, but I would not be mad at all if we did keep him and get him to full fitness, because there definitely is a quality player in there. It's just that fitness and injuries that he does struggle with, but we've seen how good he can be, and of course we want to see that more often. It was a very hard one to pick, but I'm gonna have to go sell, unfortunately. Weirdly enough, Danny Ings, I'm on the fence about because he's shown a bit in the last couple of weeks. Like the game against Hull, he showed he can be a decent asset off the bench, but it's a case of he's not going to be a starter. He'll be a backup at most, and his wage is too much to justify that. So I think based on that reason, I'm going don't renew. I wouldn't be opposed to keeping him if he was third or fourth choice next year, especially if we go back to 4-4-2 system. Of course, you need like 4 or 5 strikers potentially in the squad. So to have him as that fourth choice, just the experience for the squad could be handy. But like I mentioned, I don't know about the wage situation, whether he's on too much to be a backup. He's not played an awful lot this year, but when he has played, he hasn't been awful. But he's coming to the end of his career. Of course, that ability could go soon. So I'd say it's probably mutual parting in the summer. The penultimate player is, of course, Patrick Bamford, our saviour this season. There's no doubt about it. He's going to keep. Of course, he scored 12 goals in 27 championship matches since he joined in November, and he's been absolutely revolutionary in terms of our season. Of course, he kept us up single-handedly almost. Of course, he's been so brilliant this year. He's missed some sitters, but he also finished some brilliant chances as well. And I think he's led that line brilliant, especially with the partner like Cannon next to him. So I think next year we definitely need to build around him in that attacking third, try and get him the best support we can. Because he got 12 in 27 this year, what could he do next year? Maybe 15, 20 in a full season. And it's definitely someone I'm looking forward to see how he's used next season. I mean, what a mad 12 months it's been for him. Of course, 12 months ago he was seeing Wilder a wanker, and now he's definitely reignited his career under that same manager. It's funny how life works, isn't it? And the final player is Ryan Onay. Of course, he was with the Blades for the first part of the season, then went on loan to Lincoln in the second part, and he's helped them win the title, scoring 5 goals in 15 games in the process. And I think Lincoln fans seem to like him. Of course, they'll be in the same league next season, and I think he's a brilliant player personally, with raw ability and potential, and I think he definitely deserves a chance in the first team next year, especially if we're selling quite a few, because I think if we can find the right position for him, he could definitely thrive in the championship next year. We could maybe loan him out again next year, but I'll probably be key. Like I mentioned, if we can get the best here, and then it could be a decent asset for us, of course, not have to spend that money on someone up front instead, because I think next season we'll be focusing a lot on trying to give some younger players some chances, because of course we know we're going to have to make some sales to keep players, and of course not spend all that money. So I think someone like a Ryan Onay could be a decent asset from within. And there we go, guys, that's a full tier list as you can see above me. Obviously things might change in the summer, things could go different, but this is just my personal opinion with some logic applied who I keep, sell, loan out and don't renew. If you're a Blades fan, you'll have to let me in the comments, would you make any changes to this tier list? But regardless of what changes, we all know it's going to be a big summer for Sheffield United, a massive rebuild. I'll have a video out soon with my thoughts on a potential manager change or keeping with Wilder, but regardless of who the manager is, they need to have a big summer and a big rebuild to get this club back to where they belong. I'm not saying promotion is the aim next season, because we know it's not. I think it's more about stabilising, but I think it's about starting a long-term plan to get us back to the Premier League in the next 3-4 years. As always, if you enjoyed this video, leave it a like, subscribe to the channel, and also go and follow my socials, my TikTok, my Instagram and my X. All the links, as always, are in the caption to go and follow them. I talk a lot more about Sheffield United, Premier League, Championship, World Cup, etc. So if you don't want to miss any short form content, why not go follow them? But that's all that's left to say, so I'll see you guys in the next one.